All right, welcome everybody. Welcome back to another week's episode of 4 Point Play. I am Matt Heiser from Swish Scouting with you, and alongside me, as always, is my partner.
And Robert Alfonso with Baseline to Sideline. How's it going, Matt? How's your week been?
We're good, man. It's been busy to say the least. It's August, and so it's that time of year where people are scrambling for last minute players and trying to fill rosters at some of these lower levels. They even had a couple Division 1 schools that reached out to me. They're still looking for that one last guy out there to fill their rosters, and so it is still recruiting season, so to speak. I had two schools just today that called me looking for best availables, and so it still is the season, believe it or not, even though school's in session. How about you?
Oh no, same. You know, what I mean, just busy. But to tap into exactly what you're saying, we have a lot of schools across the country that their fall sports are involved. Obviously, we know football has already been on campus, so they haven't all officially moved in, which is why I can understand some of these schools still looking for guys at this late juncture.
Yeah, no, I mean, the other thing too is like different parts of the country start school at different times, and so
Yes.
we're here in Georgia and everyone's kind of hitting the books already. You get some places where they're still on summer vacay and they're not even thinking about move-in dates yet, so to speak. So it's kind of a geographic thing I've noticed. So
Right. And then most of these schools that aren't starting just yet won't even think about a class until after Labor Day.
right, that's true too. That's a good point. So I mean, it's a case by case basis oftentimes. So,
Absolutely.
but there's still people looking, and um, still people moving schools, even though they've made a choice in the spring and went somewhere in the summer. And now I'm noticing kids are still switching teams and switching classifications. Even we've seen that this past week in Georgia, as we've seen more kids unfortunately leave the public or even private, I guess GHSA high school scene for other opportunities that kids are changing their grade levels now at the last minute, so to speak, and it's definitely unique times. So, but today we got a good episode planned. We don't have a guest speaker for today because we're going to spend some time talking about some nostalgic gyms here in Georgia.
Absolutely.
We got some unique environments down here to catch a high school basketball game, and so we're going to kind of give you like a bucket list, so to speak, of places to watch a high school basketball game in Georgia if you're a diehard fan. And then we're going to dive into the top 100 available this week. We got some very familiar names of guys that are in the national spotlight still for the class of 2026. And then we're going to get into some gems, some guys you might not have heard of, where still some of the top players available in 2026. That list continues to have names drop from it as players commit, and in some cases kids leave for other opportunities. But we got some unique names to talk about. Again, some you've heard, some you haven't heard. So our Swish or Miss topic for the week was kind of just like a fun one. I thought we'd switch up, and that wasn't like a this or that, but what are some of the more unique environments that you can catch a high school basketball game in Georgia? Which for me was really cool because I'm not from here, right? And so there's a lot of places I haven't been to in person. I see a lot of stuff on film, if I haven't gotten there yet to kind of catch my eye. And there was one, in fact, I think somebody even tweeted it out at us. There's one that came up quite a bit from talking to high school coaches called the Palace of Wilkinson County. Was a place that a lot of people are like, oh, if you haven't been there yet, you got to go catch a game. Not been there, but it's on my list now to go catch a game at Wilco.
Well, and I've not been, but I can say this: the tradition down at Wilkinson County is elite level, old Boston Garden vibe. You know, just that kind of history. You walking through those hallways, you step on the court, even if they shellacked them, even if they repaved them, those courts has some history to be told on there for sure.
Yeah, it was all different parts of Georgia. Like didn't matter north, south, or to Savannah. People like Wilkinson County. You got to check out the Palace, and it actually is called the Palace. And I looked it up, which is interesting. So
That's even the best. That might be the best name that we have for a gym slash court, because many courts are either named after the school or even after a former coach. The
true.
fact that it's called the Palace, it's fantastic, and you have to be as a player at Wilkinson County. You already wear the tradition of that jersey because of the success it's had over the years. Then you throw on the fact that you play in such a historic venue.
All right.
You have to know that playing for Wilkinson County requires a little bit more responsibility than just putting buckets in the basket.
For sure. How about you? You got one? You kind of threw one
Well,
out right away.
I threw one out when we were having the conversation about this. Certainly, Elbert County, the Inferno. One of the back in the day, probably early 2000s, mid 2000s. Man, when I tell you that place was rocking, it's hot. It's it's certainly when the basketball is the basketball, because people up there care about their basketball. It seems like it's cut. It seems like the gym is cut out of the side of the rock. You know
That's
what I
cool.
mean? But
That's cool.
but but the fact that there's a DJ playing live music and it's the acoustics in there is hard to think. I mean, I know folks who have had a chance to travel up there can certainly say it's when those fans are sitting on top of you, one of the more unique experiences in the state.
Mm. And we're gonna see them on New Year's Eve when they come to the showcase this year.
Absolutely,
They had,
absolutely.
man, they were impressive when we saw them at the end of June. I mean, AJ Brown, returning all-region player, was really impressive player that we're excited to see, and definitely a player in 2026 that's a name to follow as
Hmm.
well. Another one that caught my ear literally today, which is just a crazy cool story to me, is down where Callaway High School in Georgia. I
Yep.
guess they used to have Hoganville High School, and it's no longer a school anymore. It's just a
Hmm.
building. I guess they use it for like the rec center for things like that. But every year, Callaway High School plays two games at Hoganville High School. And it's always against some rival and some big pack it in, old school nostalgic field gym. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna have to call down there and find out when they're playing at the old Hoganville High School here, and wake up the ghost of Gene Hackman and say, let's go old school game here, because that's cool stuff. You don't hear about those things anymore at all, and so I'm gonna have to call down there and talk to Kenny Coleman and see what we can do to get in for a game at Hoganville High.
Absolutely. But on to go along your point, Forsyth Central has two gyms. One has been modernized with all the bells and whistles. Then there's another one that goes back to what you're just saying. It's the old gym that they don't play all their games there, but they'll usually play some JV games in there. But when they want to pack it in, they'll schedule one of the Forsyth schools that we know that they're all in the same region, and one of those games against one of the rivals will be in that gym, and it gets hot,
Mm.
sticky,
Mm.
and not enough room to go make a hustle play, but people still make them. That's the
That's
best part.
brings new meaning to the word being neighborly. So
Yes, absolutely, absolutely,
I
absolutely.
that came up. I did have a coach that told me about that, and I get they didn't explain it to me as well as you did. They said they play West Forsyth in there, I guess.
Right, right.
Uh,
Because it's right down the road from them.
okay.
But I personally think all the Forsyth schools are right down the road from each other. They're like they're all right there.
That's pretty cool. Another one that came up as far as just like, and this person actually sent me a picture of it that looks like something right out of Hoosiers, is Towns County.
I've
Uh,
never been.
Man, I'll have to send you the picture when we get done here, because I mean it's cool. Like, I actually wrote it down to like, check out Towns County's schedule for this year, because not only is the gym, um, I don't even describe it. It doesn't even look like a rectangle. Like, it's kind of looking
Really?
at the picture. It's kind of got this unique like trapezoid look to it, and the bleachers are like built up into the walls. It's elevated, kind of like Hoosiers.
Okay.
Kind of looks like, looking at the picture, where the fans can't sit anywhere near down on the floor, and Coach Honeycutt's definitely got a unique environment up there to play in, and it doesn't look like it fits like a million people in it, so it's like a small cracker box environment that can create some loud noise right away if they need to. And so I definitely have on my list at some point here to go catch a game at Towns County High School in the near future.
Look, just enough seats to accommodate the entire town of Towns County, respectfully. So don't come at me thinking that
Right.
I'm calling it small. But it's funny you mentioned about just their layout. Appalachia has a layout where it looks like a hockey rink without the walls, but just it sits lower on the court,
Hmm.
but the fans are away from any proximity of the court,
That's
and
cool.
the bleachers go up. That I had saw last year's picture between them and Winder Barrow, and talk about filling it up because those are just two rivals that people enjoy watching, and
Hmm.
it is certainly um, when it gets packed, people really make sure they step in there and try to watch that game.
Hmm. Going back to Towns County quick, they have a really good freshman who I saw this past year who I really like. It was going to be a sophomore, 2028 kid named Tucker Engert.
Tunker, yes, I've heard of the name.
That's a name that you want to pay attention to in 2028. I think he started actually for them this past year, and he was first team all region in
Okay.
region 1A D2 region 8. So, but another name that came up quite a bit was Franklin County, and haven't been there, but texted Jason. He's like, "Yeah, us. We got a great gym." And I said, "Yeah, no. A bunch of people told me you guys got a great gym and sent me some cool clips." I was like, "Yeah, that's place can get turned into an electric environment. It looks like."
Right. Coach Schaefer, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, I haven't been to your gym and I apologize. You know that. All right. And I know you got a great event coming up in December, which basically is almost like a border war between South Carolina and Georgia. But I have heard the same thing that he has a tremendous atmosphere. And again, with the way coaches, I'm sure he fills up that gym as much as they do with the energy in terms of how he puts a lot of his energy into his program and being able to get the excitement of basketball fans in that area. Because the one thing that is unique about, when you talk about Elbert County and even Franklin and schools like that in the north, and even schools in the south of Atlanta, south of 985, 285, is basketball fans. They're genuine, unique, because a lot of those kids, for the most part, grow up wanting to play at those respective schools.
Yes.
And when you have a unique environment, and I can only imagine if they do elementary night or even theme night, it goes berserk because one of the schools that I think has the best theme night. I may be able to debate student body, whatever, so we can have another conversation about that in another form, Swish or miss. But Maris, not Maris, St. Pius has such a tight parochial school feel that those fans are on top of you. And
Mm.
it is the best environment in Metro Atlanta for me. And I know you got another place that's unique, but I'm talking about environment. I'm talking about size.
Mm.
It is by far one of the better spots to go catch a gym at because St. Pius and those students, they are relentlessly ruthless.
Okay, they did come up. Pius was the one that came up, and Marist came up too. I think Marist might be the only high school gym I've been to where you have your own seat. Like it's
Yes, yes, it's like theatrical. It's like a baseball field,
yeah, yeah,
baseball stadium. And even with the dome, just being able to get your own little section, like you got your own little space.
and the parquet, flooring too, and all.
Yes.
It was definitely one that came up from a couple people. Um, Staying with private schools in the Atlanta area, the church, as it was deemed, came up quite a bit. Uh, Hapeville Charter, and I've been to a game there. I've seen it, and so I know exactly what
Hmm.
we're talking about. Where you walk in, and it's like a church. It has a gym attached to it. And it's got a multi-purpose floor, and it's got a small feel to it, and so it gets loud, and the noise bounces off of everything in there. It's a great home environment where you have the team's sitting on one side with no seating for fans and the sports
Okay.
table, and it's against this glass windows that you can see right in and see the game. And then across the way is where the fans sit. It's probably about a dozen rows or so. It's
Mm-hmm.
just this unique feel. Like it's just the out in the woods in Fulton County gym, and you walk into it, and I guess the locker rooms have a different feel to it. Obviously, it's just had a lot of people like, man, I've never coached anything that comes close to that before. And so the church, as it was deemed, of Hapeville Charter, was one. So
Look, I need the church then to have the collection plate after a thunderous dunk so we could go ahead and build a building fund. Let's think about that.
right, right.
Hey, and along those lines, and there's so many schools that I know we're going to miss, right? Because we could spend another 45 minutes even just talking about the variety of schools. But what to me makes a great school environment is go out and support your high school teams.
Yes.
Go out and support them, support your kids, support the coaches, buy from the concession stands, and make it where it's an atmosphere that, regardless of how good or bad your program is, man, that makes a difference because those kids will come out and play. Those kids will be excited about what it is to play with that uniform, hopefully, even with the kids who are transferring into schools. I'm not naive, we've had this conversation, but just to create an environment to say that, there's nothing that they've ever experienced like this, one way or the other. And with these arenas, with these gyms, I just want young people to realize like once you walk out of high school, you may never get back on that floor again. So take advantage of having a great time and being part of the sweat equity that is put on the floor.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good point, right? Like part of the reason why we're talking about this today is that in an era right now of uncertainty, right, with prep schools and shoe brand, teams and AU basketball and coaches flocking to summer hoops and things of that nature. Like one of the few things that high school basketball still has over anybody and everybody else, right, is the environment that we can create
Mm-hmm.
and the good
Mm-hmm.
coaching that we have, and um, it's second to none. If we can create these good environments and create these memories, right? The part of the reason why people mention these things too is because it's memorable.
Right.
Uh, that we can, keep our game great. I would say. And speaking of supporting concession stands, I laughed all week on this because I had a lot of coaches who texted me I got to call down there and find out what's on the report. I had a lot of people who said to me, may not be the best gym, but the best concession stand in Georgia for high school basketball is McIntosh High School. And so I got to call Jason and find out what's on the menu down there because that came up quite a bit.
Well, I can't wait to hear because I might have another one that may supersede that we'll have to discuss not only off the air but maybe bring it up at a swish or miss. Who knows? Yes, absolutely.
Uh, uh, Another one that came up quite a bit, Paideia. Um,
I've never been, but I've seen enough video.
yeah, it's actually kind of cool where it's the small gym. It might be one of the smallest gyms in Georgia I've been to, where there's only a couple rows of bleachers on
Hmm.
both sides. And on one end of the gym is the stairs to go up top to where the locker rooms are. So the locker rooms are upstairs, and so if, you get there and there's a game before the game, whether it be a girls' game or somebody else playing, you can see the teams kind of standing up top or the top, waiting to come down for warm-ups, which is pretty cool. And
Hmm.
then the play-by-play or announcer in the gym is usually a high school student who's standing off to the side of the bleachers announcing the game. That was pretty cool. I remember that when I went last year to watch them play. I think I caught them play Lithia Springs. Um, so just a really unique environment, and other people pointed it out as well.
No, that's again those uniqueness and being able to have and I go back to thinking about a private school, Metro Atlanta's Westminster,
Hmm.
like the way their setup is, their lighting is a little tricky,
Yeah.
and I'm sure opponents have experienced that. But you talk about being able to have a student call the game and make the announcements. They have a great broadcasting program
Mm,
that they the students. It's a student run broadcasting, and they'll do play by play
that's
of a
cool.
lot of their events, and they've even done some of the GHSA events because those kids are learning on, real life hands on skills to
Mm,
be able to be part of what they consider doing one day.
yeah. We can't talk about unique gyms in Georgia without bringing up the cathedral, as some people called it, Buford Arena.
Listen, when before they got to 6A and when 6, 7A, whatever, was in that gym, the amount of people, which is one of the better venues in the state, you can argue with whoever you want, just don't argue with me because you haven't been there. You know what I mean? It's one of the best venues in the state, all right, to host a state playoff game that can accommodate every team. All right. They have one end that is blocked off, which is basically a black curtain in the background, which depth perception messes with
Right.
players. Then on the other end, you got the full bleachers, stands sitting all the way up to the top. Then you have stands all the way on either side. It's intimidating because then you look up and you got this you insert price here,
Right.
jumbotron, and it's when those fans, and I remember watching, I want to say it was Norcross and Pebblebrook, not Pebblebrook, Berkmar, and those fans just filled in that place, and it was just loud, and I was like, this is what this place was made for.
Mm,
This is why this place was made
sure.
because of this atmosphere. And I know they're 6A, so you won't be able to host anything in there like that. But I would love for the state to move one of the lower classifications into that gym because it is a gym that I think every school should have an opportunity to experience if they make it that far into the state playoffs.
Yeah, it's unique. When I came up there last year for your guys' thing and caught those games, it's definitely something that it feels like a college environment.
Absolutely.
You got the long baselines and the depth perception
Hmm.
that goes along with that. Um, and so that was one I think we had to mention just because it's not never been brought up. Another one that came up that I have not been to, but it's on my list to go to this year and go catch our man Vincent Cray. Is I had two coaches who said when Drew Charter packs it in, it creates an environment as good as it gets in Georgia.
Really, I was unaware.
Yeah, I've not been, and so they got
I will
they
have
got
to look at the schedule then to
yeah
get there as
well they
well.
they got a guy who's pretty darn good, and so this might be a good chance to go catch a packed house at Drew. I had a couple people that mentioned Model High School. I've not been to a game at Model High.
I've actually been to Model,
Okay.
and yes, it's very similar. And I'm gonna bring up another school that's very similar too, but it's steep, and the
The old
way the
Albuquerque
fan,
Pit.
yes, yes, but
Okay.
the energy, they have a tremendous rivalry, and Coach and Travis up there does an excellent job, just because he went to the school, so he knows the traditions. He knows. I mean, you can't walk in that school without seeing the Travis name on the wall somewhere.
Yeah.
So those the Travis family have done a great job. Their dad, Milt Travis, a legend in Georgia basketball. Who it's a family name that's well respected. So yes, to be able to go there and be able to catch an intense rivalry game, again, an area that loves basketball goes back to what I
Yeah.
said. With areas that love basketball, that enjoy basketball, and another area very similar to the way their gym is laid out is Habersham Central.
Mm,
The Habersham Central, again, the stairs are steep.
yeah.
On one end you have where the players bench, scoreboard, whatever is, the fans are able to get close enough. Then you have a walkway and then another set of bleachers. Then it goes all the way around, and then that walkway still continues over to the right side, and then you have the bleachers come down, but then there's a walkway where the fans aren't necessarily on the court. So you really don't get no fan traffic disrupting. Like you go to most gyms
Sure.
and you got guys that sticking out their feet or cheerleaders corralling the baseline. Like no, this you got a little bit of space, but the fans really aren't there to impede anything.
Yeah. Well, my eyes haven't failed me yet because there was one that caught my eye last year just from watching film that a
Hmm.
number of people did mention, and I again just from watching film I didn't see anything else that looked anywhere close to this. Was North Murray High School up in the mountains, and just I don't know. It's on my bucket list. I got to go see this thing for myself now. And they hosted the region tournament last year, and um, talked to some people who are like, yeah, it's unique. You got to go check it out. And so
I
we
might
got
I might
this
have to do that. I might have to do that as well.
giant mountaineer looking, mascot out there, and like it's got seating that's way above the floor, but it's got like stairs that go down forever. It looks like that. It looks like some sort of stone. Like it looks cool, like really old. And so a number of people brought that one up. And then one more I'll mention before we transition that came up quite a bit is East Hall.
Yes, sir. Having coached there, as well as covered a number of events there, and have seen some great teams there, I'm going to tell you that the Seth Vining Gymnasium, because that's what it is called,
Okay.
it is one of the more electrifying places when those Vikings are revved up, ready to go.
Mm,
And I can tell you, I had a chance to see Dwight Howard in there, and being able to just those fans and that fan base can be so loyal and committed that there was one time a guy who was part of their fan base, and I don't know where he's at, and I hope I get to hear and see him again. He would stand up in the stands and literally belt out, East Hall. And when I tell you, he would get them so fired up that it'd be deafening in there. The only thing I dislike, and I've made it known, so this is not the first time people will hear about this. I hate that they took the banners off the ceiling because coaches and opponents alike would come in and see, again, we're talking about the old Boston Garden, that those banners was hanging down and was nothing but championships, whether it's Lanier Land Championship, region title championships, boys and girls state titles, and it
mm,
was just hanging from the rafters.
interesting.
And you had to look up. And then you're there like, okay, one side of bleachers is East Hall fans, the other side is the rest of those fans and whatever school student body you was able to bring. But back in the day, and I'm not saying back in the day, we're talking about maybe I'll just say this. Anytime East Hall and Gainesville High School are relatively good, they want a good gate. They go play that game over there, and I promise you the intensity is fantastic. Joe Dix, he does a great job because he's been there 20 plus years. And he's, as an assistant and as a head coach, Coach Seth Vining, who's a legend in the state and who has coached both boys and girls over there, won state titles with both. So, and who still, attends games, not only there, but any place that's got a good set of basketballs to be able to play. So, yes,
Nice.
East Hall is a place that, and with the way even Lanier Land, that we could talk about that one day, Lanier Land rotates through their gyms up there in terms of who's hosting, it is a tremendous atmosphere for sure.
Mm. Yeah, that one came up, and we could do a whole episode on like characters or fixtures, right? Like people who are just staples of certain environments and gyms. Like I remember tiny little Cassville, Wisconsin, with that at a McDonald's All American in the early '90s named Sam Oakey, who
Hmm.
went on and played for Wisconsin and Iowa, and like his grandfather would sit in the front row at half court of every game since like the '70s, '60s, whatever the case, and never missed. Like you hear about people who are just present fixtures at games. I was covering a game years ago somewhere in Minnesota, I want to say, where like there was this guy in a leather jacket in the front row, like with a flag going back and forth. And I was like, who's this guy? and then it's finding out
Easy Rider.
like, oh, that's right. Like, who's this guy at this game just going up? Like, he wasn't sitting, and then so like, oh, that's the coach's brother. He hasn't missed a game since like 19, whatever. It's just like, oh my gosh, like that's cool. But
Right.
speaking of lists, let's talk players here in 2026.
Hmm.
Just put out the top 100 available of Georgia high school players. Obviously, when I do my stuff, I try to categorize things. So we're talking about strictly Georgia high school kids
Hmm.
that are playing Georgia high school basketball. And I'm just going to put out, like, when I rank players, I don't do players, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like most other people do. It's just not my cup of tea. I like to kind of group players, so to speak. And I'm going to list my top 10 here available. Not top 10 overall, top 10 available. Guys
Hmm.
still out there. And I'm going to do it in alphabetical order here. Maybe throw a name out that catches your eye as a guy that maybe, big time name that everyone kind of know about. And then we can talk about maybe a guy on this top 10 that maybe people need to pay a little bit more attention to. So I'm going to go on the list here. We got Will Dopfer from Lambert High School, kid I've absolutely loved. Since I saw him play for the first time, immediately passed the eyeball test for me. Javante Floyd from Cedar Grove. Manny Green, also from Cedar Grove. Mr. Hutcherson over at Holy Innocents High School. Colvin Landrew at Wheeler. Harris Reynolds at Pius. Jaron Samuel at Winder Barrow. Jerron Salisbury over at Norcross. Makai Williams, name people may not have heard of, down at Pacelli in Columbus. And then Jalen Wingfield over at Tri-Cities.
Well, household names. Let's go ahead and start with some household names off of that list. Will Dopfer, the Colvin young man, and the Jalen Winfield. And even Jaron Samuels has picked up enough steam both in the state and nationally that these guys are getting significant offers. I mean, one of the latest offers for Colvin, it was UConn, and when UConn comes a knocking, they've almost become a pseudo blue blood, in terms of when they come a knocking, it's serious. You know that you can play. You have a Jalen Winfield who's at Tri Cities, a name people have heard, who has now emerged into the monster player that everyone is looking to see. Jaron Samuel. I mean, and it's funny, all four of these guys bring different things to the table
Yeah.
in terms of their game. Jaron Samuels is shooting the ball exceptionally well, continues to pick up offers anywhere from mid-major offers to some Ivy League stuff and everything in between. That certainly it shows you have grades and a level of discipline that people, and enough of a skill set that people can say, hey, they'll fit into what we're doing. And Will Dopfer just finished out the summer with Game Elite. He is the Scalabrini of Georgia basketball, in my opinion.
There you go.
Who's a guy who's skilled, who does a lot of solid things, and is stronger than people realize. And certainly with his level of athleticism, makes him hard to stop. But one of the sleepers off of that list that you mentioned, it's a guy you said that's distance away, is Makai Williams. He's an athletic young man who can play on and off the ball. He can play with the ball in his hand, but he's even better just in transition slashing. He has a nice little mid-range jump shot. He's explosive. And he just happens to play outside of the GHSA and outside of an area that if he was in the metro, because he don't necessarily have to be in Atlanta, but somewhere where people would see him a little bit more, would garner so much more attention,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
from everyone.
He's one of those kids to me that, yeah, you put him around here, he's talked about all the time, every time, and
Hmm.
can make that physically, he can make that transition to the next level a lot easier than the typical high school kid. He's just a very gifted athlete, and he's got some good IQ that I thought to his
Hmm.
game. That you watch him play, you kind of wait for him to make that first mistake the first time you see someone play, and didn't really play it more
Right.
than outside of his abilities. Like he's very heady in that way. That just I'm going to do what I can do and be really good at it. And
Hmm.
even when I saw, you see someone have a bad game, it's not really a bad game. You don't really get to see him at his worst because he just doesn't show that side of his game.
Correct.
So just another guy that was kind of flying under the radar just ended up in my top 10 available right now as of early August. Um, we could talk about some of these other guys, and all these guys I did catch in, you know, EYBL, the ones that play, but like Harris Reynolds had a really good summer at Pius. Now he's healthy. All right, he missed a lot of last year and did a really good job making a name for himself this summer, and has definitely, I think, in my opinion, earned the right of being a top 10 available kit. Moving on to our next grouping. Some of these names might be familiar names. These names might be names you've heard of that some other people have lower, but these are guys I think, again, moving the needle, making names for themselves, picking up offers. I'm going to do this again in alphabetical order, players 11 through 20. Jaden Crawford at Alexander. Kevin Curtis, the state's only 7-footer at Gainesville now. Just picked up an offer from Campbell recently. Pops Dunson at Alexander as well. Door at South Atlanta, the 6'8 perimeter guy. Malik Gillespie at Houston County. Amari James at Wheeler. Caden Lawson down in Tiff County. Picked up three D1 offers, I think, this summer. Banks, Big Banks over up at North Oconee. Javon Rampersant at Berkmar now, transferring over from Grayson. And then, of course, Kingston Whitty at Holy Innocents, who might have set the record for the most offers this summer for a Georgia kid.
No, absolutely. I think the two that stand out immediately, just in terms of name recognition, is Pops and Jaden Crawford. All right, because that that makes for an explosive backcourt. Jaden Crawford was at Crystal Ray, and he was a guy that if you wasn't paying attention to Crystal Ray, you didn't know he existed, right? And next you know, here he comes and enrolls over the summer at Alexander, and really set the basketball world on fire with his ability, his speed, his athleticism, running the point. Then you put him alongside Pops, who's a name that people know, who's making his own wave, as they say, on the back end and just being able to run the team. I love Banks' push here. He came in a year ago from a non-GHSA school. Certainly made an impact last year, but really, really, really is going to take, I feel, the next step, under Coach Rasmussen's system to be able to just play dominant inside. But my sleeper kind of is a little of a two-headed monster here. The Javon from Berkmar. And he's a kid from New York that we talked about, you and I mentioned. And then he went to Berkmar, left Berkmar, came back to Berkmar. Now I'm going to say this. With the Witherspoon brothers, okay, um, coaching him, it's going to seem like the Draymond talking to Kevin Durant meme that's out there that they're pouring into him. And they're like, listen, you're going to get this done. You're going to play
Right.
your tail off. You're going to do exactly what we're asking you to do. And it's paid off so far. All right. It's paid off for the kid. As well as there are times that I see Coach Spoon being like Andre Iguodala calling over Wiggins and be like, listen, come here. I need to talk to you. But the one thing that I'll say this on air is if Javon continues to absorb what those two coaches are telling him, he just picked up an offer from UAB. He's picking up steam right now.
Yep.
He has a skill set that college coaches like, but more importantly, he has a motor that has not stopped working. And if he continues to do that, he is going to be exceptional for Berkmar. My sleeper is going to be Kevin Curtis. Okay? Kevin Curtis is, first of all, you can't teach 7 feet. Okay, that's a hard stop. You can't teach seven, and I see the work that's been going on since he's arrived at Gainesville. Watching him do some things that, of course, you're like, oh, he could have did this, but for some reason or another, most bigs, it takes time. Another part is some people just, it's like a flower. It's like a plant. You got to keep pouring into it, and eventually gain some confidence. And the fact that he's up there with Charlie, who just committed to Belmont, you know, being able to practice against some guy like that every day since you've enrolled at the school is only going to make you better, and it's going to make both of those guys better.
Yeah, no, I mean, like evaluating big guys, right, looks a lot different than evaluating guys.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, like, there in the grand scheme of things, there's a national shortage of size
Hmm.
at all levels, and uh, which when you have a shortage of size to begin with, and then you're looking at it like, well, they still got to play, right? Be able to play on top of
Yep.
being big. If you're big but not good, that's a whole different conversation. It's like you're a hot commodity when you're big and you can play, right? For the first time in my
Hmm.
21 years, I had schools calling me last summer saying, anybody you got over 6'5" who started on a high school basketball team, show us what you got left. Because there's this it's become scarce for some reason, and so and besides being big, let's give those guys some credit. Like both of those names have gotten way better in the last year.
Absolutely,
You know,
absolutely.
and one of my sleepers on that list is Caden Lawson, right? Like he
Yes.
was a big name in South Georgia last year, and people are like, well, what'll happen when he comes up here and does it, right? And he played EYCL with the Georgia Stars, and he looked really good. I mean, the guy picked up
Hmm.
a couple Division One offers. Iona and Merrimack up in the Northeast have offered him. I'd be kind of interested to see him in that Merrimack 2-3 zone with all that length, so to speak. But I mean, he's passed the test, right?
Hmm.
And proven. Another one I'll mention is Door Door. Uh,
Yes.
you know, but again, national shortage of size. I mean, I'm looking down this list. I don't see any 6'8" perimeter guys like Door Door. Like when you're in a space by yourself, like he is, right? You're a hot commodity now all of a sudden.
Well, not just that. He's in that unique space, right?
Uh-huh.
But he isn't just married to the 3-point line, which is the best part about it. His
Sure.
best attribute is being able to hit a mid-range jumper that seems to be a curse word for a lot of college coaches. But when he gets in there, he knows what to do. He'll step out for the three, and he has the range to be
Yep.
able to cover that space. But being that size and with that level of touch around the perimeter, but more importantly, just outside 15 feet, but just inside 19.9, he's pretty solid.
Yeah. No, for sure. I love him. He's picked up some offers as well. Moving on to our next batch. Again, sticking with alphabetical order. Um, Chase Dupree over at Southwest Macon. Demarley Elliott over at Pius. C.J. Harper at Paideia. Dontrell Jackson over at Cross Creek. Chol Kerr over at Calvary Day, or I should say down at Calvary Day. Jaden London over at Tri Cities. Maddox Melancon at Dutchtown. Chris Perry and Jalen Sweat down at Bradwell Institute. And then Jason Wellborn over at Decatur.
I'm going to say that I've had a chance to see a lot of Jason Wellborn. I've had a chance to see um, a few of those guys on the list, and I don't know why I just drew a blank. But Wellborn had a good summer. Wellborn had a summer that he jumped off the page for a lot of coaches, and they were checking to see what some of his um, consistency level. And I'm sure a lot of them, depending on how he chooses to do, and he's picked up some offers, depending on what he chooses to do in terms of visits and what he likes, doesn't like. I mean, he's going to give Coach Welsh excellent and a more improved player, from this coming year. But the one guy on that list that I really fell in love with late in July was Jalen Sweat. You know what I mean? He is the energy giver, as they like to say, that he is going to leave it all out on the floor. And some people, when we were sitting there watching him, was like, well, how can a player, it's hard for a player to get better in a month. Not if you spend time in the gym.
Right.
Not if you finally buy into what you're really good at. Because when you buy into that, then it becomes attractive. Because guess what? College coaches can fix the flaws that you feel that kid needs to show on the court, as long as they don't got to completely um, fill up a blank canvas.
Sure.
The things that he does, you really don't teach. You have a high motor, your desire to play defense, your ability to grab rebounds, and he plays it at such a high contagious energy that everybody else around him has to play. everyone else around him has to do. He's picked up an offer from Edward Waters, picked up an offer from Georgia Gwinnett. These are schools that, again, he fits what they want to do. So he's certainly one of my sleepers off of that list.
And physically is prepared, right? I mean,
Yes,
to
yes.
make that jump and play with the older guys, and he. I mean, it speaks to Ty Randolph. Is Ty Randolph? I have to get a fact check. Is he the only former Harlem Globetrotter that's a head basketball coach in Georgia? That may
I
change.
would, I'm gonna go with yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
Like
mean, but
the,
they're gonna be really good. They're gonna be really
no,
good
I
this year.
know they're gonna be really. They're gonna not just make noise there. They're gonna disrupt a lot of brackets along the way.
And so he's developed those guys tremendously. I mean, we mentioned Chris Perry. They got the Thomas kid who's going to be a junior also, who's a really really good prospect in 2027. So I think Bradwell Institute's going to surprise a lot of people
Yes,
this
they
year.
are.
And some other names on that list. I absolutely love Jaden London. Like 6'8", just tough, high motor kid who I caught him a couple times last year. He played with Langston Hughes on the back half of the season and just did not stop or slow down. He's just crashing the offensive boards all the time. Uses his power well, so I liked him quite a bit. Another name,
Before you continue with your next name, the
yep,
Maddox kid from Dutchtown, loved him.
yes,
Loved him, because as I've mentioned to you, and I'll say this here, hopefully it'll motivate the young man. He reminds me of Bryce Scarborough,
mm,
that played at for the Florida Rebels, played at Ohio State, and is currently with the Utah Jazz. He has that same build. He has that same just look about him that and they're both about the same size. So if he maximizes a lot of his other skills, who knows? Sky's the limit for him.
I mean, he was the MVP at the McDonough tournament first weekend in
Hmm.
June, and my phone started ringing with Division I schools about him, checking in, like, hey, who is this kid? Like,
Yeah.
he's actually looks really impressive, and he continues to grow his game, and physically, again, can make that you know jump that is
Hmm.
so demanding of the high school kids. Another name, as far as again another physically gifted guy, is Damari Elliott over at Pius, who had a really good summer. Just kind of like this 6'6" Swiss Army knife that just does a little bit of everything and is very versatile and a gifted athlete that has really grown his game. And he was really good last year, right? When Harris Reynolds was out, I mean, someone had to step up, and Damari Elliott was a big reason why Pius was able to get into the state tournament last year and even make some noise. So
Excellent glue guy that every program that can use, because again, when he's not scoring, he does other things to not only cover anybody's backside, but certainly fill up the stat sheet.
sure. All right, next batch here. We're gonna throw out. We got Damari Bailey at Griffin, Bobby Buggs at Dutchtown, Tatum Holmes at Johns Creek, Tyler Jones at Locust Grove, Vincent Cray, Drew Charter, Dwayne Lawton at Central Gwinnett now, Marquise Leslie at Alexander, names people may not be familiar with, Kamari Mays over at Carrollton, Malik Rideout now at Grayson, another name, kind of a sleeper, Champ Simpson down at Chattahoochee County.
Yeah. So that the first two names on there, Bailey and Biggs, were electrifying, and even they were excellent in their matchup at McDonough in June when we had them. Bailey, he certainly gives you a nice looking point guard. I know some Hall of Fame coach Rick Pitino said there are no point guards no more. He actually fits that role of being a point guard, who looks to score the ball and excuse me, distribute the basketball. Biggs is the same way, who happens to be explosive, and how he chooses to be able to deliver the basketball. You also have Mays, who to me is such an unknown commodity,
Mm,
unknown player that, like you just said, not too many people may know who he is. Um, Tyler Jones is another prospect that when you look at the totality of what he's able to do, he gives you things that no, his body still needs some maturing and it will get there. But what he has he's able to utilize and be dominant. And listen, I've been on the Vincent Craig train since you pointed him out to me. I'm not going to get off anytime soon. So Vincent, don't make me a liar. I think you can be special, young fella. All right,
Right.
I really do, and I know you have the work ethic. I know you have the desire because I've watched you enough. Not only with just Drew playing with Hoop Atlanta, I've watched you enough to know there is something there, and you have it. I hope you have a great senior season because right now I'm a fan. Let's keep it up.
So this batch of 10, I think I have deemed as like the Rodney Dangerfield
Yeah, show me
period.
some respect. Absolutely.
Give these guys some
Absolutely.
respect, right? Because
Yes.
he's very good. Champ Simpson might be one of the best kept secrets. Where I had a few Division One schools that read my report from that weekend in Griffin and were like, okay, are you trying to pull a fast one on us? You got a kid in here named Champ who's in your top five from the weekend. Never heard of him before. And I said, here's some clips. And I had a D1 school in Texas that I know for a fact that's still talking to him that absolutely adores him. And so he's a name to watch out for. And then upon further turning over of stones, found out part of the reason why he's good is because he's got a family member who has access to all these gyms. So the kid basically grew up in a gym, right, down in the
Okay.
South Columbus area, and just a really talented player. But I like Tyler Jones over
Yes.
at Locust Grove, just another tough nosed dude. It's kind of a Swiss Army knife, and um, yeah, he just makes good decisions. He's one of those guys who makes everybody around him better.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
watch him play. I mean, he's the best senior in Henry County this year, which has had good talent come out as of late, and just kind of does a little bit of everything, and just a really good athlete. And um, Tatum Holmes at Johns Creek had a
Yeah.
really good summer. Had a really, really good summer and made a name for himself as well. So let's do one more
No,
on.
no, Matt, you can't give it all away. You can't give all the groceries away.
Hey,
Tell
fair
them where
enough.
they can find your stuff, man. Tell them
That's
where they.
right.
You can't give all the groceries away.
Can't give away all the groceries. Gotta come buy some produce. So, but you can check me out. You can get the top 100 available. We update it regularly here in Georgia at swishscouting.com. Find me at Matt Heiser Swish Scouting at swish_scout on X. I gotta start using that correctly. I'm old here, old dog learning new tricks. And but this was a great chat this week, man. Talked about some gyms, talked about hoops, talked about some top players. There's plenty of other good players out there in class of 2026, and I enjoyed this one this week. Fonz, where can we
No,
find you?
no. Listen. First of all, you're 100% correct. This is almost like the doldrums. This first week of everybody getting back to school, everybody's itching for some daggone hoops because we started the gridiron down here. Starting this is 0 week for most high school teams. Next
Sure.
week they'll be kicking it off, and we'll be inundated with football stuff. But everyone can find me on BTS_report, baseline to sideline.com. Certainly BTS report on IG, Instagram. Listen, we're here for you guys, and certainly make sure you hit the subscribe button because we're gonna have more content throughout the year.
Absolutely. Appreciate guys, and hit that subscribe and like, and we will see you on the court.